Hello everyone, welcome to the first Qualoo team meeting. We are going to do these things more often, actually starting from today. This is going to be our first time that the Qualoo team comes together and does a public facing meeting because we want to be more public, we want to involve the community more, and we've been growing super fast, so I think it's only normal that we are going to include everyone in our journey because we're all here to make the internet better and we can do that best together. So let's make the internet better together, and here's our updates. Today we are going to run through the updates of the past few months because Qualoo has been building and not really shipping yet, but has been building a lot and has been shipping the app in a closed beta version. But that's what we are going to discuss later on. First, we are going to recap a bit of how has the year been for Qualoo, because in the beginning of the year we barely had any followers, and right now we just crossed 20,000, which is quite a big milestone, and things start to move pretty fast. So maybe first give the mic to Keith to talk a bit more about how has the year been, because you've been living this journey, you've been going to conferences, you've been doing a lot of things, you've been all over doing a lot of things for Qualoo growth, for the fundraising, for building the app, for all of these things. So can you give us a little recap of how has your year been and what was most excited?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Yeah, no, this year has been pretty crazy for us. I mean, if you go back to the start of last year, and Deepin was just a new thing that people hadn't really heard of, and then everyone's kind of like jumping behind that name, and everyone knows what Deepin is now. So, if you go just before the end of sort of the end of the year before last, we were just kind of putting together our tokenomics, getting ready for our first to look out for the raise and going out in the industry. And then this whole Deepin narrative just kind of landed on our lap, which is, perfect timing because we finally had a name. The market was heating up to what we were building, and we kind of just gone on from there. So I mean, the big milestones for us was, finding the early investors and backers in the project that help us. We met our good friends, Arcan Ventures, who put together our tokenomics and helped us with our strategic advisory. We have weekly meetings with them. They helped us to really kind of formulate the offer, what we're doing, and things like that, the business model, and really helped us, put things in place there. And then from that, we had early versions of our mobile app that we developed internally that was working, which comes off the back of what we would use in 15 years of telecom consultancy. This is not just new technology that we've developed. We've been using this technology for 15 years on projects. We've just took this thing that was incredibly valuable, put it into a Deepin to make it massively scalable and meet all the challenges that we experienced in our careers. And then, the other big milestone for us was our partnership with IoTex. We were going back and forth with different Deepin blockchains, there's obviously Peak and IoTex notably, and we were going back and forth between them for a few months and explaining what we were building, got them excited about that as well. And, when they come on board, not just as a partner, but also as investors, that helped us get together. We're obviously one of the projects on the Deepin Surf cohorts, which has been really good. If you think that initial investment that comes from them, that really helps to push the project forward. And once we got that secured and we knew we were doing that accelerator program with them, I think it was like July time, we brought the whole team together, a lot of advisors, a lot of the team that had been working remotely all over the world. That was very exciting. It's like, okay, the time's now, let's get everyone together. We had like a month in Bangkok in July where we were just hackathon, developing a bit of stuff, going through what we're going to be building and things like that, talking through the various product and launches. And there was kind of a bit of a deadline at the end of that workshop, at the end of that accelerator program, with the token 2049, the demo day. IoTex had this awesome 2-day event, the real world at IoTex in Singapore, where we had a booth. We also spoke on different panels. We got to present on the project as well. So that was really important for us to have a good showing there during Token 2049. So we put a lot of work in getting the versions of the fixed node and the mobile app actually working and demonstrable at that event, and that was really cool to see. It was, we cut it down to the wire. It was even getting updates on the morning of the event and stuff, and developers and things working. But it was a huge team effort, and that was another important event for us. And I think we had about 9 people in Singapore. We were hitting the events, we were going to the different conferences and things like that, showcasing the app, and we got the genuine feeling that people were excited about what we're building. And Qualoo is a very unique project. There's nothing like that in the entire space. That's a good thing, but it can be a bad thing when you're trying to explain to people what we're doing because they haven't got any frame of reference. It's so much bigger and different to everything else. But people can see that the value, especially with now Deepin growing and the push for like real world technology and actually things that are meaningful. And what better way to use that technology to solve a real world sort of systemic issue, which is bad internet for people all over the world. And so we kind of grew from then, and the last kind of couple of months we've seen a lot more traction as we get the app ready to almost launch ready. We're just doing those final few little edits, and we've extended the kind of our internal test network. So there's, extended friends, family all over the world actually testing that while we're just polishing up the final bits before we release it out to our wait list. And yes, I mean, that's kind of the bit of the whirlwind year. And this basically sets us up now where we are now, where we've got working app, the back end's working, the data's flowing. The next steps is, grow token out there, revenues and things like that. So this year in
Before we start talking
2025,
about the token, Keith, I wouldn't talk about the token yet. I want to talk about your year in review, and which is like, what was your most excited thing that actually happened in the past year? What made you most excited about this whole project?
yeah, I mean the excitement around Token 2049 was a big highlight, because that was kind of like, we've been talking about this concept for multiple years. It's quite hard to actually land on the right direction and get things happening. But, the momentum had been building before then. It was actually like a reality. The whole team was there in Singapore. The app was running and things like that. So that was definitely a huge highlight. And that was, I think, when the whole kind of team and everyone kind of had that belief that, okay, it's happening. We're doing this. It's, the time is now. Let's go, kind of thing. That was a huge highlight. And the other highlight for me is coming the last kind of week, when we've had that extended apps out to our friends and family, the data's coming in, I'm looking at it, and that vision that I had all those years ago, where we would have this global deep-in network and we can see everything coming in from all the networks over the world, whether you're on an oil rig or a Nigerian development center or a big city. I was seeing the data like that, and that was like, that was quite a moment, because it was like, okay, it's working. So those two moments were really kind of pivotal for me. I mean, I'm sure some of the other team, I don't know if anyone else has got anything to add on their kind of highlights, but that's definitely ones for me.
Yeah, I hear a point of validation from the market happening in Singapore, where your idea that you had validated in your head actually got validated by other people, and finally understanding the bigger vision, and then seeing it all together, seeing it coming together with the data that you mentioned with just very limited testers. It's I think it's a super cool thing that's happening, and that's probably like, there's only going to be more data coming in, so there's only going to be more things to be seen. Talking about Singapore and Token 2049, where you were at the IoTex, like on the stage with IoTex and the event and all of that, which is one of the main partners of Qualoo as well. And maybe talking about partners, I want to go to Nick, because you've been talking with a lot of partners as well, Nick Garvin. Can you tell us a bit more about how has your journey been talking to all these partners and the growth of Qualoo from your side and your vision?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. I mean, you guys touched on it earlier, right? We came from humble beginnings, and it wasn't too long ago. It wasn't too long ago when our X account was still in the triple digits. So some highlights for me is not only the IRL events and the partnerships and stuff, but the social growth as well, right? We're at a rate now where we're running at about 500 followers a day. We have in our X account, which, like you mentioned earlier, Rick, we just crossed 20,000. I think at this point now, even probably gaining more during the conversation. We're up to like 22,300 right now. And that's amazing. That is a large part due to these campaigns, the IoTeX campaigns, the things that have kicked off in Singapore. In regards to the Telegram as well, and in terms of like how strong our community is, we're at 5,500 Telegram followers. I believe we're like just 300 shy of 15,000 followers in our Discord. Some highlights were like, even for LinkedIn, we launched a newsletter, Qualoo Connects, and a new website. That was really cool. Very, very, very nice to see that come together. A place that we can house all these memories from the year. That was a blog. We launched a blog within the website. In regarding the partnerships, I think a large part, Arcanum has kind of helped spearhead and drive a lot of these initial connections, providing the long-term support, business model, helping us with the GTM strategy. And then we have, looking back, early days, we were in a DPEN campaign that was connected with U2U and a bunch of other DPEN projects. It was like a strategic alliance that really kind of got the word or the name of DPEN out there a bit more. And like Keith said, that kind of stuff also kind of came to fruition around the same time as one of the new emerging narratives. So yeah, U2U was kind of helpful along the way. Of course, there was WeAd as well. Obviously, IoTeX. Token 2049 was definitely like a turning point for sure. Not only to bring the team together, but to see it and to feel it and to get on the stage. A personal highlight for me, because I wasn't able to go to Token 2049, was DevCon week. Sharing a stage with Keith during DevCon week at M-Sphere, which was the hosted home of ABC Conclave. We were the only DPEN panel during that 2-day event. It was a massive event right in the heart of Bangkok, and that was cool to be a moderator and to share the stage with Keith, allow Keith to talk about like what we are actually building. And then it was cool because when you're there, you're actually seeing that we're building something real while others are still talking about building something real. And not only are we building it, but it's like he said, it's already working. It's already out there. If you look at DPEN Hub, for example, which is a website that those of you could go visit online to learn a little bit more about DPEN Hub. I believe we were trending on the front page. We still are trending. I think it was over a month that we're trending now. We started trending for our community as well. Like there's a couple different columns, so that was huge. It's just been a fantastic ride to be a part of all of this and watch it grow and watch our community strengthen. We went from a lot of early adopters and super users to now just like continuous organic growth, and it's not slowing down, and that is a big personal highlight for me.
I love that, and I like how deepen became a term this year, and like how Mazari is right now pushing like deepen as a frontier, and actually Qualoo is sort of at the forefront of it, because I think the use case of Qualoo and applying a old use case like telecom, but then applying the deepen technology to it, like it's super easy to understand. People just understand it, it clicks, and once it clicks, it's not really a crypto project anymore. It's a tech startup, and it's revolutionizing an older industry. You're using new technologies, tech, blockchain, all of that. So maybe make a segue into that part of the conversation. Let's talk a bit about the tech and the blockchain, right? Because after all, we are using blockchain technology. We are using the Web3 technology, leveraging Web3 to grow and to get our network out there. I'll pass this one to Keith again. Can you give us some updates on the tech side of Qualoo?
Yes, yeah. I mean, like the blockchain side and the decentralization for us is really important, because we really wanted to build this global network that you could not fund by any other way, right? There's no way on earth we would get funding, even if we raised hundreds of millions. It'd be impossible to coordinate and facilitate this globally. This means of having the public being able to buy some of the infrastructure that they own, and they can plug in themselves, and this builds a much larger network that can be put together for a mission. In our case, that to solve that systemic problems with bad internet around the world, and create some accountability and transparency. And that leads into where the blockchain comes in. So once part of that is the incentives layer. We want people to get rewards for contributing to the network and the data and the infrastructure. You can do that borderless, global, very efficient and automated using blockchain and tokens and tokenomics and stuff like that. And deep in, it's very common now. Like you see that deep in flywheel. It's like a Kickstarter model. People buy the infrastructure, then that's turned on, then it generates services. People pay for them services, and it goes back and it generates more users. And that's really important to have that feature. And then the other part of that is when you're relying on data and to come in and infrastructure, you need to actually validate and verify where it's coming from. And that's another big part of what we're using with IoTex's tech stack is the device ID. Each device needs to be properly registered on the blockchain, has a special kind of NFT that's linked to the device and the users. Those authentication methods and verification can actually be used in different parts of the solution, making sure that that person's a real person, it's a real device, it's not being hacked or replicated in any way, and it's actually giving real accurate information. So we've actually made quite a lot of progress on that. We've already just finished our first kind of smart contracts that actually like creates the NFT and registers it and things like that. So we're just now going through integrating that with our various technology, So we've got two nodes, essentially. We've got the mobile app and the fixed device. Both of them is basically a node, and we want them to be properly registered. But the mobile app gives us more flexibility with things like actually showing insights and tracking and things like that. So they're both super important. So that's one part of the kind of tech stack. And the other part of the tech stack that is also really exciting that I just touched on earlier is like what these nodes do, what kind of information we get. And Qualoo doesn't just try to sell raw data. We've probably got the most complex data set of any project out there, and we collect a lot of data, and where we have our secret sources, we know how to take this data and how to analyze in a certain way. And a lot of the tests we do isn't just collecting like telemetry data from coverage signals or radio or modems and things like that. It's actually actively testing the internet. It's actually sending streams over the internet. It's communicating back and forth. It's actually analyzing how is this provider handling my traffic? Are they throttling it? Are they routing it the wrong way? Is there congestion? And on the different nodes on the network, as these feeds can you can kind of use the data points to coordinate and the different data points and stuff and see root cause analysis and things like that. And that's a big part of what the insights are. There's no point for us to sell raw data to people because they don't know what to do with it, right? There's a huge technical skill gap, not just in people's homes. They don't know how to properly set up their internet and stuff like that, but also in the telecoms providers, the governments and regulators, and that's what we're addressing with all of this tech, So it's super important that our network's global, it's everywhere, and just like the internet, and that data is verified and it's believable. And that's another key part of putting it on a blockchain. It's immutable. You've got evidence. You say at this point in time, this problem was occurring on this area for this amount of time, and this is where the problem was. And then we can also see when it's fixed, when it's not fixed, and things like that. So it's that evidence part as well, and it feeds into a lot of different things. And so there's a lot of kind of different moving parts in the tech stack, and that's obviously going to keep going because our roadmap is crazy over the next few years. And when you look at the other kind of technology that's caught up, like the AI agents and stuff like that, the way we interface with technology is going to change, and that's going to be no different for Qualoo network. And our data from our deepen and insight is going to be used in all kinds of different ways for AI agents and things like that. So it's quite exciting on the kind of roadmap, and we're just kind of getting started with it.
I like that the word flywheel, how you use it, and also like using blockchain and flywheel, like get the flywheel running, where there's a lot of like most of the crypto industry after all is more like a value extraction. Like everybody is building tools to extract value, while Deepin actually uses blockchain to distribute value, and they pull in value from outside of the space to then distribute through with blockchain technology, with a token to reward all the users that are part of the decentralized network. And Keith, you also mentioned the app and the nodes, and Eduardo has been working hard in the background, getting the app ready for release, getting the app ready to be tested by the public. Could you give us some updates on that, Eduardo? Where are we at with the app, and how has your year been with working with Qualoo, getting the app out?
Yes, it's been a long year, but actually, Keith and I go back a long way because that's actually part of the reason why we wanted to do it this way. Is so many years of consultancy experience fixing operators and networks all over the world. So we really wanted, it's such hard work and just to fix one operator at a time. And we really wanted this to be out for everyone. We really wanted this to benefit the world, ensure that the internet is working as good as possible everywhere. It's not just a developing world issue either. It's also in developed world. In the UK the other day, we were having drop calls all in the center of London. We couldn't make video calls to the US. Both at the end of the US people who were on the call, the video was stopping. Our call was getting dropped on the video, on the data, as well as on the voice calls. It's a disaster. So basically, the internet performance can be a lot better worldwide. And with all our years of experience doing it, when an operator has a problem, they call the A team. So this is us. So then we put all this knowledge into software, and we've put it into a way that we can put the power of our tools and our knowledge into everyone by doing it through a decentralized physical infrastructure network, a DPIN. And we've done that in two ways, actually more ways, but more things are coming up, which I prefer to keep the surprise for a bit later on. But basically, for now, it's going to be a mobile app, both on Android devices and on iOS devices, even though the first release will be on Android only, but shortly the iOS version will follow. And yes, so we've long year, we created a proof of concept first. We want to ensure that everything that we've been doing in person, kind of by hand, works in our automated way. And we proved that it does work, and we've been generating amazing data. So then from that proof of concept, now we're almost done with the first release. So very shortly, in just a few weeks' time, we'll be able to release version 1 of the app, so that everybody that's actually on the wait list, because we're not going to release it to everyone at first. We want people who've been supporting us, following us in our community. So, if you really want to test the app, sign up in our community on the wait list, Qualoo.io. And then you'll see what's coming. Very, very exciting app. Looks really good. And actually, we want to involve the community as well. So we have been working with very nice UI UX designers, and we have different versions of the home screen and of some bits and pieces. And we would like the community to give their opinion and show us what they really like, what they prefer. So we're going to be showing some bits and pieces and asking you guys and gals, everyone, what do you all think? And we'll be taking in your feedback and then showing it out. So that's for the app development. And on the nodes, so as I was explaining, we've already created, as Keith was saying, our secret recipe into the software. That's some bits of the software, the main bits of the software are common. So then the nodes will be released a bit later. The software is already working. We already have it in test mode, but we want to do things right and do it in stages. So app will go out first and then the nodes. So basically very exciting stuff coming up very soon. So you gotta stay tuned and follow Qualoo everywhere. Telegram, Discord, X, or Twitter, however you call it.
I will remember out of this what you say, that the waitlist is being filled up pretty fast and that we're only releasing to the waitlist. So whoever wants to get on, I think now is your time. Otherwise, you might miss out on being the first to test it out. Thanks, Eduardo. That's a great update.
Thank you, Rick.
I'm looking forward to start testing the app even more and to see other people and other data coming in on these maps, because it's cool. Like now there's how many people testing? It's 20, 30 people, and you already see some cities glowing up on the maps. So I think everyone can go to Deepin Hub now and already see what the maps are showing, right? Is that correct, Keith? Just a quick one. Is this data already visible or not?
For us, it is.
There's some, yeah,
Only
us
for
it
us.
is. Yeah,
Okay.
we're actually, as part of the IoTex tech stack, they have the Deepin scan. So the mobile app is every time somebody downloads the app and runs it in, it actually kind of lights up the map to say where it is, and there's a bit of a summary on there that says how many nodes are active and how many countries are covered. So it's quite exciting to see that, and like from friends and family who are early testers, they're getting excited, the FOMO, they're like driving around Tesco, testing the Wi-Fi and stuff, and seeing how many things they can get and going around. When they're driving across the country on the train journey and it lights up and you see all that, and it's just super cool to see. And like when we used to do this on a telecom consultancy project, this data is not easy to get. You have to have drive tests, you have to import specialist hardware, you've got permits, you need very expensive consultancy days, travel and stuff like that. And to have the same level of data, in fact better, with more coverage and more viewpoints, without having to move or do it, you've got it all coming in. That was the vision, and that's kind of what's happening. Like to say this is going to be transformative for the whole global internet is an understatement. What the network will do is it will put attention on any bad service, and that will go to the people who can need to do something, and that accountability and transparency. So we're basically going to drag the world's internet up, and Qualoo is going to be the new standard, and it's global, and it's and having a unified, uniform method for testing all over the world, rather than everyone doing their own thing, small, focused internally and stuff like that. That's another kind of game changer, because it's something that everybody can see. This is the benchmark. Everyone can see. A lot of issues that happen in the internet, they're not singular issues. They affect whole regions or whole groups of people. And some of the issues, quite a lot of the issues, actually originate from your house, which is, you think, has nothing to do with telecoms providers, and we help address those kinds of issues as well. So it's like, how do we improve global internet? How do we use this Deepin to actually help you get better internet at home, help your telcos fix it, help governments invest more, and have this visibility everywhere? And it's all around this kind of vision that, a truly kind of modern, thriving society needs ubiquitous connectivity. And that's not just last mile, I'm on. It means global. So that means that any two people anywhere in the world can communicate, can do business, can have a video call, can play a game. And that's the kind of specification that the people need, and that's what Qualoo will help. So Qualoo is really the blueprint to usher this in, and a catalyst for a better connected world. So it is exciting stuff, and it's all brought by Deepin, and this kind of taking this value and making it scalable through the power of Web3 and decentralization.
One thing more about what you've been asking, Rick. Basically, I didn't want to give too much information about what people will see in the app, because I really want them to be wowed when they see it. But I'll just drop in a little bit of info, which is basically on this first release, people are going to be testing. So they'll press the button. The app will be generating the tests of the performance on the device, on the internet, as you go out to the internet all over the world. And then this really cool map is going to come up and show, basically this screen first showing some details as to that performance, and then a really good visual as to how that person's device is connected worldwide on the internet. And also that data that's being generated is actually starting to map the internet worldwide, something that nobody's been able to do. And we're starting to do that. On this first release, where it's still only going to be showing these cool lines because you were asking what people will be able to see. But that data is already generating extra bits and pieces of the map. And on the next version, we'll then be allowing people to see what they're mapping, what's being mapped, and so on. So then they'll get even more rewards as they're mapping a place that hasn't been mapped before. So there's so much coming out, coming up soon that I'm getting too excited. I don't want to speak too much and give too much information out. But I wanted
I love
just to
that.
give you a little hint, a little preview.
I love that idea of like exploring a map and extending a map. Makes me think a bit of like a GTA back in the days where you start with a whole gray map and then you run around and then the map starts getting bigger wherever you map yourself or go explore. I think
Yeah.
that's maybe some ideas to put
Yes.
in your heads, but also in the people's heads. Like we're building
Yeah.
GTA for the internet.
Yeah, I mean, also Waze, the app Waze, some people use Google Maps to get directions or going to different places, also to notify, there's a problem on the road, there's a road blockage, there's a traffic jam, whatever. Waze guys actually built their entire map through the first users that they were driving around, and then that data was being generated. If you're driving at 100 k's, then that means there's a proper road. You're not going to be on the mountain driving at that speed and so on. So we're doing kind of something similar, and then we'll also be able to notify people when there are big issues, when operators are not working, when these ones are performing better than the others, and when, thanks to Qualoo, the truth, as Keith was explaining earlier, the truth is going to come out, and then people will then be able to choose the right operator. But then we'll also help operators to fix their issues because we'll know them better than themselves. It costs a lot to have people drive testing throughout the entire country, and it's really not easily done. So
Yeah.
it's not realistic to think that the operators and ISPs, internet service providers around the world, will have the money to be able to do that and also give low pricing. It's impossible. So, but we'll give them the tool to do it. So through Qualoo, operators will be able to lower their OPEX, lower the amount of money they're spending on a regular basis to keep the performance, know is it working, is it not working, what do we need to fix. All of that will be able to be done in a better way thanks to Qualoo. So the internet worldwide is going to improve thanks to us. So this is a great service to the world. There's no Web 2 or Web 3 or anything if you don't have any connection to the internet. If you don't have internet, forget it. Nothing works, So that's key, and this is our mission. This is the way we're going to improve the world.
Sounds like there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of parties involved in this whole puzzle, right? Like it's we're fitting together quite a lot of puzzle pieces to then become the Qualoo standard, let's say. To get these puzzle pieces together, I think something called business development has to happen, and that's something that Nick VC has been doing quite a lot. He's been talking to partners in Web3 for growth. So like leveraging partners to grow our community and to find new people. But also I think there's another part of the business development, and that's what Eduardo calls the operators that we are trying to help. Nick, can you give us some more info on like what have you been doing the past year and how have you experienced this journey?
Yeah, it's been wild. I mean, I've been with Keith for like probably about 5 years now, getting this thing together and seeing it all come together in actually quite a short amount of time. It's only been this year really that so much has happened. We've had all the team together in Bangkok, all bashing stuff out together. Then 2049, and before that I was in Bali for CoinFest Asia and also in Vietnam for a big conference there. And then obviously Token 2049 and then DevCon. But yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, I think the highlights for me have been there's not really one, it's kind of been a mixture of everything. First of all, the team coming together, then going around Southeast Asia, meeting all of these people in the Web3 space, and also experience how actually bad the internet is in places, especially in Indonesia. Was absolutely awful. I was so surprised and spoke to a lot of people there, local Indonesians, and every single person who lives there, who was born there, who's moved there, all said the internet is like terrible, and it was. I experienced it for myself. And then obviously, of course, 2049, meeting the IX Tech team, getting the funding in. But from a business development point of view, we've kind of been working on this for quite a few years already. And for me, the big thing is like, you know, it's all about collaboration. Qualoo is about, we need all these companies and all these governments and all the end users, everybody, to basically collaborate to make the internet better. I'm looking at, the big ones are obviously the governments, because they can help push policies and make things better generally, because they've got that, they can pull those strings with the ISPs. And then there's also the governmental agencies, people like the United Nations, the ITU, the African Union, ASEAN. And those are the kind of people we're lining up once this network's out, like Keith mentioned earlier. They don't know how to do it. They can't do it. Trying to get, 200 countries, tens of thousands of operators, and, millions of businesses to work together to try and would never happen any other way apart from through the deep-in ecosystem, yeah. So on top of that, there's obviously the Web3 deep-in projects that we're looking to partner with. We have quite a few lined up. I don't want to say anything right now because it's a little bit too early and we need to work a few things out first, but we've got some very, very well-known and big projects that we're going to be talking to, and we have been talking to. And obviously the deep-in narrative is very, very loud this year. I think 2025 is going to be the year that deep-in really does actually show the power of Web3. And in my opinion, I think deep-in will be the path or the catalyst for Web2 adoption, for mass adoption, basically. Because people don't really want to understand how all these blockchain, private addresses, they just want to have a service that they can use easily, right? That's where we come in also. And then on top of that, which is also very, very important on the business development side, is obviously the internet service providers, the mobile network operators and the governments. But also we're talking to quite a few non-gov organizations, NGOs, that are really out there at the very edge of the internet where it's really bad and there's no internet at all. And they're obviously very excited by what we're doing because we can help them, help the governments, get the funding and also identify exactly where they need to put investment. Because there's trillions being put into digital transformation projects. And all of that relies on connectivity. So there's a lot of moving parts, and I don't want to say too much now, but that's kind of so we've got Web3, we've got Web2 people, we've got the governments, we've got internet service providers, NGOs, and for me, the big ones is the government organisations like United Nations, as I mentioned, because they've got all this funding and they need to get out, and no one knows how the internet works globally. Like Keith said, right? You could never get any of these countries working together to actually find out where the problems are and fix them really quickly. I don't know if Keith mentioned it before, but we solved whole countries' problems in hours. We also did a project in Africa a couple of months ago where we were over there and we put out 20 devices and we're using a few of our apps and we found the problem within a few days. So that's very, very powerful stuff. So when we are going to expand that globally, like Eduardo has been saying, it's going to be a game changer for sure. And that's the most exciting thing for me. We're actually going to really help humanity get connected together.
And you say there that sometimes it's hard to make these countries or governments see the problems and understand the problems. I think that's also that's maybe a marketing activity and an educational thing as well, where we're not only focusing on getting users, but we also got to educate those users to what is the problem we're solving, but we also got to educate the potential clients who we are solving the problem with. Right, and I think Lawrence has been working quite a lot on this whole strategy around educating both sides of the puzzle. Lawrence, can you tell us a bit more of how have you been tackling this? Because we've seen quite a lot of growth in communities in our community, but also in you've made a lot of progress in terms of content, and I think together with Nick, not sure who's been behind all of this, but there's quite a lot of educational content been going out and also been prepared to keep going out.
Speaking of education and also with what Nick was just saying, there is something that I touched upon, but I didn't really go deep in detail. And I'm realizing, people who are listening to this, some people will be very technical and they already understand it all, but some people may not really understand many things at all. So I don't want us to assume, how knowledgeable our community is, because everybody, we have the full spectrum. So I just wanted to clarify one little thing. When I'm explaining that, internet, we're going to be showing the internet connectivity worldwide, and people may think, well, I don't really care because I'm just in my country or in my city. But one thing that people should really understand is that the way the internet works, I mean, internet is basically gazillions of computers connected worldwide, right? Basically, you're not going to the same. So your internet service provider, your ISP, is giving you connectivity. So your router at home or your mobile device is connecting you to a gate of the internet, and then you're out there. But depending on what you're going to do on the internet, you're going to one place or another. So let's say you're not going to be going to the same place if you're having a video call with your friend, if you're playing a game directly to your friend, if you're watching a Netflix movie, whatever, you're streaming a movie, you're reading your local newspaper. So depending on where you're going on the internet, you're using a different set of providers, because you have to get your connectivity through to each place. So that's why it is important to know what happens out there. And that's also why Nick was mentioning about different countries being aligned, because you have routes, submarine cables, all sorts of routes throughout the world that your internet connectivity needs to get you through and to, so that you're getting the service that you needing to use. So I think this is a basic piece of information that's actually key for people to understand that it is important. And when people are just testing out, they said, well, I'm using a speed test. Yeah, but that's just telling you how fast the connection is between your device and the first hop, let's call it, the first little, it's called last mile in telecom. So basically is getting you to the gate of the internet. But maybe you have a great connectivity there, but then thereafter they're using really bad links, or maybe one link drops, or maybe there's congestion or different times of the day or whatever. And if you're not dynamically changing that properly, if something's not done well on there, technically speaking, I'm trying to stop myself from saying technical words, then you're not going to have a good experience. So there's a lot involved in giving you good experience. And speed test doesn't tell you the whole picture at all. That's why our first release also is not going to have a speed test. Even though we've developed one, we don't want people to be focused on that, because that's not what the main bit of information is. So we'll release a speed test later on, but for now, we don't want you to be focused on the speed test. That's what everybody does, and that's not telling you the real truth. So that's just a little bit of information I thought could be good as on the educational part that now Lawrence was also going to be talking about.
Okay, Lawrence, take note. This is going to be one of the next blogs. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna write this out. You're gonna make an educational article around this. People gotta understand this before they dive into our ecosystem. Like, how has it been? What's going out? What are you working on right now? And how is the educational part and the content and the community coming together?
Yeah, like Eduardo says, there's a lot of levels to understand how the internet actually works. Making this fun and engaging for people is the real challenge. So we have a lot of stuff ready to get people by baby steps kind of into the problem that we're trying to solve. And that goes both ways, to the community and also B2B. We need to establish our authority on the topic and show that we actually have the experience to tackle these kind of challenges. So it's been a fun year. We've 100x all of our social metrics, essentially, which is, of course, easy when you're smaller, but still going from 100 signups to 12,000, and from a couple hundred people in our social channels to now 15,000 in Discord. That's been a real fun challenge, and we hope to do another 10x, hopefully more this year. So we have an abundance of potential partnerships and people we can work with. People in the industry are very eager to collaborate, especially with Qualoo. So it should be a fun year. We have a lot of stuff ready, especially when the app goes out. We'll run some campaigns in parallel to get people more excited and more educated. So we'll keep building the hype. It'll be good.
Okay,
Yeah, and you should be using Qualoo to improve. Now it's clear that you're not on your normal location and where you're at there, which is a developed country almost. Yeah, your internet was buffering a little bit and you were going blurry. You need Qualoo to fix the world.
Your internet is going blurry too. It's I think it's.
Well, we're in the same country, so.
Bad country. I hear that Lawrence doesn't want to spill too many beans here and he's keeping some alpha behind. So, okay, I will not ask much further. You will see, and you gotta follow the socials to keep up to date with what's coming and with the campaigns that Lawrence has in his back pocket. I think we touched on most of what we wanted to discuss, right? I think the only thing that we gotta do is look forward and what is coming. And like Eduardo said, the app is coming soon. I hope very soon. That would be cool. I think the community is excited to start using the app, so that's fun. Lawrence mentioned there is going to be in parallel also quite some campaigns going out, educational, engagement, and all of that. So that's cool. I think Qualoo will also be present on quite a lot of conferences in the coming year, because after all, that's the best way to make people realize and to make them really see the change that it can bring. It's never been easier to convince someone on a vision than in real life. So I think that's what Keith and Nick have been doing over the past months as well. Like Nick mentioned, in Asia, in Indonesia, in Bangkok, in Singapore. There's been quite a lot of that in the past year, and I think that won't stop. We got the notes that are coming after the app is released. So like if we look at the roadmap, there's going to be campaigns, there's going to be the app v1, app v2, nodes, token. Don't want to talk too much about the token yet, but there's a token coming. And yeah, quite a lot of partnership campaigns that are in our back pocket, like Lawrence and Nick said as well. So I think that's a great note to end this Qualoo team discussion. I think there's quite a lot of information been shared that we have been holding back way too long. For the past few months, we haven't really been loud enough on socials, even though we've been growing fast, but we haven't been loud enough of what we have been doing and what we have built, actually, because yeah, just too busy building. Guys, thank you very much for everyone listening. We will keep doing this on a bi-weekly basis. So every 2 weeks, we are going to do a bi-weekly update with the Qualoo team, where we're at, where we're going, what's been happening behind the scenes. And we hope to see you every week, actually, because this is a team call we do every 2 weeks, but we also do every other 2 weeks. We do a partner call where we invite our partners like IoTex, like Arcanum Ventures, and like all the others we have in our back pocket. So thank you very much for listening. Hope to see you next week. And thanks, team, for taking your time and sharing all your information.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you soon.
Good night.
Ciao.